So we are in the minor prophet of Zechariah, and we are going to move toward uh, completing chapter 5. And we're going to talk about the scroll and the woman in the ephah. And that's our plan for today. And let us go ahead to review chapter 5 in its entirety. We looked at this before. I always like to look at the chapter as a whole, and we broke that into pieces. And this particular chapter is divided by the expression, lift up now thine eyes. We see that in this chapter 3 times. So I use that as my dividing point to break it into 3 pieces. And the expression, I turned and lifted up my eyes, is an expression that means I gave my attention to, or I turned to listen and focus on. And so that's each one of these is a focal point in the chapter. The first one is the prophecy of the flying roll or flying scroll. Then we have the prophecy of the woman sitting in the basket in the ephah, which is a basket that is of very specific size used for measuring things. And then we have 2 women with stork wings that come and take that basket out of Jerusalem to Babylon for a place that's been prepared for it there. And that's kind of interesting too. So those are the 3 pieces that we're going to look at. Let me now read through it all with the titles in view here so that you can see the context of the entire passage. Then I turned and lifted up mine eyes and looked, and behold, a flying roll. And he said unto me, what seest thou? And I answered, I see a flying roll. The length thereof is 20 cubits, the breadth thereof 10. Then he said unto me, this is the curse that goeth forth over the face of the whole earth. For every one that stealeth shall be cut off, as on this side, according to it, and every one that sweareth shall be cut off, as on that side, according to it. So let's pause for a minute and make sure we understand. Verse 3 means this scroll has writings on both sides. One side of the scroll is dedicated to the sin of theft or stealing. The other side of the scroll is dedicated to the sin of perjury. And we see that on each side of this scroll. Verse 4, I will bring it forth, saith the Lord of hosts, and it shall enter into the house of the thief, and into the house of him that sweareth falsely by my name, and it shall remain in the midst of his house, and shall consume it with the timber thereof and the stones thereof. And of course, this expression is telling us that when an individual insists in their sin and is not willing to give that sin up and move away from it, then the flying scroll or flying roll is going to come upon that individual's personal life, into their home, into their family, into their finances, into everything that they have to do with on a personal level. And it's going to be dealing with that individual every day because of that sin. Verse 5. Then the angel that talked with me went forth and said unto me, lift up now thine eyes, and see what is this that goeth forth. And I said, what is it? And he said, this is an ephah that goeth forth. He said, moreover, this is their resemblance through all the earth. And behold, there was lifted up a talent of lead, and this is a woman that sitteth in the midst of the ephah. And he said, this is wickedness. And he cast it into the midst of the ephah, and he cast the weight of the lead upon the mouth thereof. Now, some people say this passage says the woman is wickedness within the ephah. Other people say the woman was in the ephah, and the speaker had wickedness in his hand, and he lifted up the lid of the ephah and threw it into the ephah with the woman, whichever the case that is. And you can read it either way. We know that the basket is containing wickedness, and it's contained there with a lid. Verse 9. Then lifted I up mine eyes, and looked, and behold, there came out two women, and the wind was in their wings, for they had wings like the wings of a stork, and they lifted up the ephah between the earth and the heaven. Then said I to the angel that talked with me, whither do these bear the ephah? And he said unto me, to build it an house in the land of Shinar, and it shall be established and set there upon her own base. So there's going to be a special place reserved in the land of Shinar for this wickedness. So that was the chapter in its entirety. And then we went back to look at it individually, piece at a time. And we looked at verses 1 through 4, and I showed you the King James Version in blue, and I annotated that version with some of the Hebrew words. And when we were finished with it, this is what we had. Then I turned back to face the angel and lifted up mine eyes from looking down, and looked, and behold, a flying scroll, a scroll of written text. And he said unto me, what seest thou? And I answered, I see a flying roll, the length from front to back thereof is 20 cubits, or 30 feet, and the breadth from side to side thereof 10 cubits, or 15 feet. So we realized in verse 2, in order to tell the length of the cubit from front to back, the length of the roll, it has to be unrolled. So it's flying like a flying carpet or a sheet, and it's open in this rectangular shape. Then he said unto me, this is the curse, a declaration of what will be done, that goeth forth over the face of the whole earth, all the countries, for every one that stealeth and takes something that is not theirs away secretly. And if you remember, we pointed out, this is more than simply the sin of theft. This is clandestine theft. This is theft that is being done in secret, where you're robbing someone and they don't even know they're being robbed. So that increases the intensity of the sin itself. Everyone that takes something that is not theirs away secretly shall be cut off and expelled, as on this side, according to it. And everyone that sweareth or commits perjury falsely, making claims by their word of honor, shall be cut off as on that side, according to it. I will bring it forth and send it out, saith the Lord Jehovah of hosts, and it shall enter into the house, the dwelling place of the thief, who has taken what is not theirs, and into the house of him that sweareth falsely by my name, and perjures themselves using God's name. And it shall remain in the midst of within his house, and shall consume and destroy it with the timber and the carpenter wood thereof, and the stones for building thereof. Usually a person looks at their home as a place of sanctuary, a place of safety. This passage is telling us that you may run from God like Jonah, but you can't hide. There is no place of safety from God. There's no home, there's no citadel, there's no walled fortress that you can go into to escape the presence of the Lord. And if you sin, he will find you out, and he will be there with that sin to address it. So Zechariah is being shown this large open scroll and the writing on both sides. One side condemns stealing, the other side condemns perjury. Now, it's interesting the order in which those occur, because what often happens when you steal and get caught? What's the next sin you commit? Is you perjure yourself. You lie about it. I didn't do that. I swear I didn't do it. So you can see where the sin of perjury is often used in an attempt to cover the sin of theft. So we see that as a very interesting couplet here. The scroll will become a curse and enter the violator's home and destroy it from within. So the crime that the curse addresses is stealing, taking something from another secretly, and swearing falsely and denying your sin. I didn't do that by the name of the Lord. I swear I didn't do it. Have you ever heard someone say that? Okay, sure you have. Using the Lord's name in vain. So the punishment that the curse brings is excommunication, cut off or expelled from religious life, and the destruction of the violator's place of safety, their place of security, their place of sanctuary, the violator's house, their personal dwelling, and their family. Now we move to the new verse for today. Does anyone have any questions about verses 1 through 4 before we move in to the new section?
Well, a couple of things, John, I thought last time we talked about the length of the scroll and width of the scroll,
We did.
and you said that was Solomon's portal or that portal,
The
but
porch in front of the Holy of Holies.
right. And the other stuff I looked at said it is the measurement of the Holy of Holies.
Okay, good.
So I don't know which it is.
The Holy of Holies is smaller.
I'm just saying, that's what I read. So I just,
Yeah.
The second thing is to notice that the sin of stealing is a sin against someone. It's against love thy neighbor. That one sin, love thy neighbor, that's a sin against that. And false swearing is a sin against God. So you have the 10 commandments here flip-flopped. You have the love of the neighbor first, followed by a sin against God. So I found that interesting that they flip-flopped this.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Anyone else with any other observations or comments? Okay, then the angel that talked with me went forth. Now, the angel, the word here for angel, is the word for messenger. And you can find this for you on, I believe, let's see, what page is it on? It begins on the bottom of page 41. So if you have your study sheets, you can turn to study sheet 41 and find this down on the bottom, and you can start to fill in these blanks if you choose to do so. The angel or the messenger that talked with me went forth. Now, went forth here actually means to come out. So he was somewhere else, and he comes out of where he was to address Zechariah with a message. And the first thing he tells him is, lift up your eyes, lift up your head, change your focus. Focus upward now on God and see what this is, see what the message is from God, the message that goeth forth or is brought out for you. And he said unto me, lift up now thine eyes and see what goeth forth. And I said, what is it? And he said, this is an ephah. Now, an ephah is a measuring basket for grain. It's 1 to 3 bushels, or about 8 to 24 gallons. There are various types of ephah. There is the short ephah of 8. There is the long ephah of 24, and there is the ephah in between. And these ephahs are used to measure out an amount of grain, usually to pay wages with the grain. Someone would come to work into someone's field, and they'd be working in the field not for money, but for food, because that's all they had to eat. And they would work from day to day to eat from day to day. Okay? So the ephah is the measuring mechanism that is used to give you your fair daily wages. That's interesting too. And the angel says, here it is. And Zechariah says, well, what is it? And he says, it's the measuring ephah. The measuring ephah that's used to measure your share, and it's seen by others. It goeth forth. It's not secret. The way people would steal in secret is they cheat on the ephah. They'd make the ephah with a false bottom that would come up inside the basket. So when you filled the basket, it looked like it was full, but there's actually a cavity on the underside that would short the worker his wages, and they would be stolen from secretly. So you see how this connects with what we saw before. Okay? You steal secretly by using a rigged ephah. So he's using this ephah, and it's going to be seen by others. There will be witnesses. He said, moreover, this is their resemblance through the earth. This is how one is seen by others. People are going to testify, yes, it was a true ephah, and he received his true wages. Because the secret is they don't see the missing part in the middle. Then there was lifted up a talent of lead. Now, a talent is a disc or a round cake, and these were used as weights. And these weights were put on a scale. And the scale was used again to do what? To determine the wages for your efforts. The way you would steal secretly is you would have false weights. So this cake of lead is a disc-shaped weight, and that talent of lead, and lead was used as the metal for weights used for anchors of judgment for the poor. Golden weights were used for the rich. So when we see someone here who's using a weight of lead, it tells us this is dealing with poor people, and they're working day to day for their food. They don't have much. They have very little. And yet there are people stealing from the poor. That's the message here between the lines that we don't necessarily see. Now, there's a woman, and the word here for woman is the word for wife or adulteress. What does an adulteress do?
Cheat.
In secret. Do you see it? You see what's connecting all these things together? It's not just the stealing, it's the deceit that goes with it. You're stealing, but you're doing it secretly, like the adulteress. So this is a woman that sitteth or inhabits the midst of the ephah. If there's a woman in the ephah and I fill it with grain, I can't fill it with the right amount of grain because there's already something in the ephah. See how it's all fitting together? Okay. And he said, this is wickedness. Now, here's some ephahs for you so you can see what these look like. An ephah is a measure of volume, okay? And this on the bottom here are the baskets, the woven baskets. This is an ephah here, or a bath. Now the ephah, it's not shown here, but there is a short ephah and a long ephah and an ephah. So it ranges in size. So some people who say the ephah is not big enough to hold a woman, so the Bible is wrong, the Bible is false, God is wrong, he doesn't exist, they're fools because they don't understand the culture and understand that the short ephah may be too small for a net. But what about for a little woman? Can we fit her in there? I never thought about that. Nobody said the woman is normal sized. So we have to think about this for a minute, okay? So that's the ephah with which we're dealing, okay? Wickedness is something that is done wrong. It's acting as an enemy. Wickedness is when you choose to cause someone else harm. And he thrusts down into the basket where the woman is the wickedness. See, most people interpret the woman as wickedness. I don't know that that's what this is saying. This reads to me that the woman is already in the basket, and he's adding the wickedness to her in the basket with her. And he throws the weight on top to seal them in together. So what does the prophet see? He sees a woman in a basket used to measure dry weight, and the woman either represents or is with wickedness, which are evil actions taken to harm others. Now, if she's in the ephah, she's in there for no good. She's in there to short someone the grain they should have. So if wickedness comes her way, the wages of sin here. All right. So what happens to her? She's sealed. She's imprisoned in the basket by a lead cover with wickedness. Either she is wickedness and represents it, or she's with wickedness sealed together in the basket. Either one works. Herb, go ahead.
I offer one more thought of the woman in the basket, whether she's evil or not. She's temptation. It has been known to be that. Look at Proverbs if you want to know what temptation is. It's often referred to as a woman, the evil woman. So
Okay.
that's just a thought.
Well, and there's one other thought. Let me throw this into. If you were really, really poor and starving and really needed food, where's a good place for you to hide? In the ephah, because that's where the grain's going to be put in. Do you see what I'm saying? So
Yep.
there's several interpretations possible here. Okay.
Nevertheless, she was a basket case.
Thank you. Now that should have been Collins that said that, not Barry.
Yes, I agree.
Collins, you got scooped on that one, brother.
Well, Moses started off as a basket case too.
He did, didn't he?
Whoa.
So here we see the picture I've added of the woman inside the basket with the lead weight on top. Okay. There's the lead disc or the weight sealing the woman in the basket with wickedness. Then I lifted up mine eyes and looked, and behold, there came two women. So now there's two more women here. And the wind, or the breath, or the spirit, remember the word here for wind can mean spirit, was in their wings. What does that mean? They were probably in flight. The expression wind in their wings means that the wings are being used for flight. So these two women come flying in, okay? And they had the wings like the wings of a stork. Now, when I first read this, I thought, wait a minute. Usually when I read about a bird, a big bird, it's usually, if it's in the English, it's an eagle. And if it's in the Aramaic or the Hebrew, it's a vulture. What is a stork here for? What does a stork represent? What does a stork represent? You tell me.
Birth.
Birth
Child.
or life. Okay, it's a maternal bird. It's a bird that's very affectionate to its young, and it embodies devotion. Now they lifted up the ephah between the earth, which is the ground, and the heaven, which are the clouds. So they're flying this ephah away. And then said I to the angel that talked with me, where do these bear the ephah? Okay. And he said, to build it a dwelling, a house in the land of Shinar. Shinar is 10 miles northwest of Babylon on the plain of Dura. What else do we know about Shinar? It's on the plain of Shinar that Nebuchadnezzar tried to make bacon out of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He tried to cook them in the oven. What else do we know about the plain of Shinar? Come on, folks.
The lion's den.
The lion's den, all right? And what else? the Tower of Babel is located on the plain of Shinar. So what is the plain of Shinar? This is a place where God is challenged. And that's where Babylon resides. Now, we have been studying Babylon as a city, as a nation, as a country. There's another Babylon in the book of Revelation, and that Babylon represents wickedness. I think that's the Babylon we're seeing here. I don't think it's necessarily the city. Something for you to think about. And it will remain there on a place dedicated for it, on some kind of pedestal. Now, this brings into mind the golden statue that Nebuchadnezzar built of himself that was on a pedestal in the plain of Shinar and represented his wickedness, and he wanted everybody to bow down to it. So there's some similarities in here. What happens to the woman in the sealed basket? She's taken by two winged women out of Jerusalem to the land of Babylon, where a place has been prepared. Now, the history here, number one, it's where Nebuchadnezzar was humbled. Number two, it's where the Tower of Babel was. Number three, it's where Nebuchadnezzar's idol of gold was, and where Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were thrown into the kiln because they refused to worship the idol. It's a place where 3 attempts have been made to be equal to or take glory from or compete with God. That's Shinar. It is the place of wickedness. This is Nebuchadnezzar suffering from the mental illness of boanthropy. And he's eating the grass in the plains of Shinar. This is the Tower of Babel, constructed by the people so they could reach up to God and be as high as God is. And this is the golden statue of Nebuchadnezzar that he erected and demanded everybody to bow down and worship. And Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego said, "No thanks. We're not going to worship your false god. We will serve our God because he is able and will save us. But if not, we're going to worship him anyway." Nebuchadnezzar, no. This is all happening in the same place. And they end up in the fiery furnace with the fourth person, who is none other than Jesus Christ. Now, the image represents 2 women removing sin from God's people. They're taking wickedness away. They're cleansing them. They're purging the nation of their filth and sin. This reminds us of the previous prophecy of Joshua standing before God, being accused by Satan in filthy garments. Remember that? And what happens to Joshua's filthy garments?
It's
They're
clean.
cleaned.
Actually, they're cut off of him,
Yeah.
right? They're actually cut away, and he's given, they're not cleaned. He doesn't wear those garments ever again. We got to be careful here, okay? Those garments aren't cleaned, and he's wearing garments that were once soiled. No, that's not what happens. He gets a whole new set of raiment, completely new, completely fresh, born again from above is the representation. Now, here we have these 2 women carrying the ephah between them, flying between the earth and the clouds to Shinar. This is a woman standing in front of an actual stork. So you can see the stork's wings in comparison to the woman's arms. I found this very interesting. That stork is one humongous big bird. I didn't realize a stork was that big before. When I saw this picture, I said, wow, that's a big bird. You can see his head here. Almost looks kind of prehistoric, doesn't it? And here's his wings, and here's a woman showing her tip to tip, and the bird's tip to tip. So that's a nice visual of stork's wings.
A stork has to be big.
The stork has to be big, all right?
Yeah, because it's carrying what, 12-pound babies?
Oh, okay, I see. Are they 12-pound or are they 6.5?
Yeah.
Larry,
Yeah.
now I know what's wrong with your kids. They were 12.5 pounds when they were born. Wow.
Yeah, we had some big babies.
Okay.
Hey, John,
Yes.
do you know if the word for the woman in the basket is the same word for the two women that are flying? Because it makes a difference on how I interpret. If she's as an adulteress, then she's evil in the basket. But if she's just a woman, it makes me see
Now,
the evil was put in with. Do you know?
the word woman can mean two things, Annette. It can mean adulteress and it can mean wife.
Wife. And
Okay.
are these two women the same word? Wife?
It's the same word. Yes.
Okay.
But it can have two very different applications.
All right.
Okay. So Joshua, his iniquity, his filthy garments were removed by God because he couldn't remove them. And here we see these two stork women removing wickedness from Jerusalem, taking it to Babylon. Here we see Christ removing our wickedness because we couldn't do anything about it. So I think this is a type of Christ here, removing the wickedness from those who put their faith in him. Okay. So the 5th chapter of Zechariah is comprised of two visions. One addresses judgment of the sins of theft and perjury. The other, purification from wickedness. The first vision, which is the 8th in the book, presents a large flying scroll, which represents God's judgment on those who steal secretly and swear falsely, usually to cover up their stealing. The second vision, which is the 9th in the book, illustrates the woman confined within a measuring ephah, which is then removed from God's people and delivered to Babylon. And I look at this as a statement that wickedness will be put in its place. It will no longer be free. The first vision uses the imagery of a large scroll flying through the air. The text on the front and the text on the back condemn those who swear falsely in God's name and who steal secretly. And their punishment will be to be exiled from the Holy Land. So that the Holy Land is purged from those sins. The second vision uses a large measuring ephah, probably the long ephah. Doesn't have to be. And it contains a woman representing wickedness, whether she's wickedness or with wickedness. And she's entrapped in the ephah, sealed by a lead lid, represent a weighing or judgment. And she's flown off by two women with stork wings. And stork wings represent future life. And she's taken to the land of Shinar. Here's these two women with the basket and the lead disc. Now, those who say the Bible is false because an ephah is too small to carry a woman, it could be the royal ephah or long ephah, or the woman could be small, or the woman could be in pieces. It never says she's alive. We've seen other places in the Bible where women have been chopped up. Maybe we got another one here. I don't know. I'm just looking at the possibilities. Here's the large ephah, the long ephah, the royal ephah. Here's the small ephah. Now here we've got a big girl and a little girl. So let's put the little girl in the ephah and we're fine. Annette, this is for you. I know you like my PowerPoint magic. So here she is. Hello, everybody. I'm here inside this ephah. I fit. It's okay. The Bible's not wrong. The Bible's right. You can trust it. It's okay. You know, it's funny, Annette, I'm sitting at my desk making these slides, and my wife is doing various things, and she hears me laughing. And she comes, are you making another one of those PowerPoints for Annette? You know, are you doing another one of those things? I said, yeah, it's kind of funny. But she appreciates them, don't you, Annette?
I very much do. Thank you.
So Shinar is Babylon. The Tower of Babel was there. The golden idol was there. And they're all challenging God's control of the future. That's what we see going on here. So we've had this series of visions of Zechariah. The first one was the man among the myrtle trees who turned out to be Adonai, who is the owner, the one who paid the price. Then we had the 4 horns and the 4 craftsmen. The horns were evil. The craftsmen addressed each of the evil entities. We saw the evil horns as Assyria, Babylon, Rome, and probably Islam. And we saw the smiths, the metalsmiths, and the wooden smith, the carpenter, Jesus Christ, who will address Islam. Then we had a man with a measuring line where Jerusalem is restored and the Gentile nations are punished. Then we have the cleansing of Joshua, where Satan is rebuked. Joshua is made the high priest, and we're introduced to an individual called the branch. Then we had the golden lampstand and 2 olive trees, and that showed us the law, the state, the civil authority, and the prophets, the church, Joshua, united to build the temple. God's plan is not a separation of church and state. It's a unity of church and state. Separation of church and state is an aberration mankind has created to try to separate God from man. Then we saw the flying scroll, where God purges the land of those who live by sin of theft and perjury. We had the woman in the basket, where God removes the wickedness and iniquity from his people. So bury these prophecies should no longer be a mystery to you. And this book should no longer, at least this part of it through chapter 5, should no longer be considered difficult by you, because it's explained here very clearly. Now we're going to move on to the difficult part, to the 4 chariots and the coronation of the high priest. And that's what we're going to study next. Any questions?
So I do read a commentary that gives numerous explanations. So in addition to the ones you mentioned, this one also said that the stealing was the stealing of their minds, and they accused the 10 northern tribes of that, and they were the ones cut off and exiled. So it's just one of many interpretations that was given.
Okay. Well, the southern tribes were also cut off and exiled, but to Babylon, not to the north country.
Yep.
So, okay, good. Thank you.
Hey, John, real quickly. In the early chapters of Acts, Paul was lowered out of a window out of the city in a basket. I don't know what kind of basket it was, but that's how he escaped.
Okay. I suspect there was a long ephah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't remember anything in the Bible that gives us a sense whether Paul was a big guy or a small guy. I don't really recall. I don't think there is anything that tells us that. But he probably was lowered down. by the handles of a long ephah. That would be my guess. Okay, good. Anyone else? Now let's go to chapter 6. And let's get a sense of it as a chapter, and then break it into its pieces and see how we're going to approach the study. And I turned and lifted up mine eyes and looked, and behold, there came 4 chariots out from between 2 mountains. And the mountains were mountains of brass. All right, ladies and gentlemen, what do we know about that word brass? What should it be?
Bronze.
It should be bronze. Good.
Copper.
Could be copper. All right, good. But it's probably not brass. In the first chariot were red horses, and in the second chariot, black horses, and in the third chariot, white horses, and in the fourth chariot, grizzled and bay horses. Then I answered and said unto the angel that talked with me, what are these, my Lord? And the angel answered and said unto me, these are the 4 spirits of the heavens. Now, do you see a difference here? In the past few prophecies, when Zechariah has asked the angel, what is this? How has the angel answered him? Don't you know?
Mm-hmm.
The angel had expectations Zechariah should know those things, but this one's different. The angel does not expect Zechariah to understand this, so he's very plain with him and tells him exactly what it is. Okay? So those other ones that we've been through, Barry, that we've already passed, we should understand those. We should understand those perfectly clear. You don't understand those? The angel's looking at you and saying, what's the matter, you, huh? You should understand this. But this one, this is different. What are these? What's going on here? And the angel answered and said, these are the 4 spirits of the heavens, which go forth from standing before the Lord of all the earth. The black horses, which are therein, go forth into the north country, and the white go forth after them. Now, when I first read this, that there were 4 horses, and they were going forth, I made the assumption one would go north, one would go south, one would go west, and one would go east. You made that assumption too, probably. That isn't what's happening here. Okay? The black one goes north, and the white one follows them, goes forth after them. We're seeing something very different happening in this passage. And the grizzled go forth toward the south country. And the bay went forth and sought to go, that they might walk to and fro through the earth. Where's west and east?
To and fro.
The bay is covering them.
Right.
Okay? And the bay went forth and sought to go, that they might walk to and fro through the earth. And he said, get you hence, walk to and fro through the earth. So they walked to and fro through the earth. Then cried he upon me and spake unto me, saying, behold, these that go toward the north country have quieted my spirit in the north country. And the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, now, do you see when we get to verse 9 that there's a switch from verses 1 through 8? There's a natural division there, okay? Because the word has come to him now a second time. So that's where I'm going to put a line and divide that in a few minutes. Take of them of the captivity, even of Heldai, of Tobijah, and of Jediah, which are come from Babylon, and come thou the same day, and go into the house of Josiah the son of Zephaniah, then take silver and gold and make crowns, and set them upon the head of Joshua, the son of Josedek, the high priest. Now, we got lots of names here, so we've got lots to study, because each name means something. So that's going to be another piece that we're going to focus on. And speak to him, saying, thus speaketh the Lord of hosts, saying, behold, the man whose name is the branch. Now, we've seen him before, and he's come back. We're going to talk about the branch again. So here's another division. And he shall grow up out of his place, and he shall build the temple of the Lord. Even he shall build the temple of the Lord, and he shall bear the glory. And he shall sit and rule upon his throne, and he shall be a priest upon his throne, and the council of peace shall be between them both. And the crowns shall be to Helam, and to Tobijah, and to Jediah, and to Hen, the son of Zephaniah, for a memorial in the temple of the Lord. And they that are far off shall come and build in the temple of the Lord. And ye shall know that the Lord of hosts hath sent me unto you, and this shall come to pass, if ye will diligently obey the voice of the Lord your God. Now, Barry, I 100% confess to you, this is one difficult chapter. This is a tough one, because
How
there's
come
lots
there-
of things in here we're not familiar with.
How come there are 5 horses and 4 chariots?
Where are there 5 horses?
Well, there's a red, black, white, gristled, and a bay horse, which could and it means strength. I assume the 4th gristle and bay are the same horse.
Okay, why are you assuming that one horse pulls one chariot? It's actually 2 horses pulling the chariot, and one of the horses pulling the 4th chariot is a bay, and the other one is grizzled. I see no problem here.
Well, my question is, where's the red horse chariot? Because it doesn't show up.
Well,
Yep.
we're going to talk about that.
All
Yep.
right.
In fact, it showed up and it's already done its job, but we'll get to that.
All right.
All
Why
right.
did it say the horses are in the chariots?
Well, we'll look at the wording. It doesn't say that.
Okay,
Okay.
it makes sense. So I just
Yep.
asked.
So as I told you earlier, I'm going to put a break there because we see that first section is all one major thought, and then the word comes a second time. I said I'm going to break it there because that is where we're talking about all those names. So we're going to have 3 sections here. The first section is going to deal with 4 chariots. Now, I've given you a copy of this text, so you can be taking notes on it, if you so choose, on Zechariah 44. And you can draw lines here and breaks and take notes on here, so you have this. The first chariot were red horses. The second chariot, black. The third, white. The 4th, grizzled and bay. The grizzled and bay are pulling the 4th chariot together. There are 4 spirits of the heavens, and they walk to and fro throughout the earth. So I'm going to title this The 4 Chariots of God. Now, if you're studying the book of Daniel, in Daniel, there is a reference to watchers. I believe these are the watchers of Daniel. So if you want to study that a little deeper, you can go into Daniel and you can look up watchers and holy ones, and you can see another representation of these who walk to and fro through the earth, searching things for God.
Are these also the 4 horses in Revelation?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Not?
Not.
Sometime together as being very, very much the same. So we'll see when we get there.
We sure will.
Yep.
Yep. Yep. Go ahead, Herb.
I'm reluctant to ask, but in using your method of breaking up ideas, does chapter 8 start a new idea? I mean, verse 8? Because here you've got what's carried to the earth, the chariots, the 4 horses. Then cried he upon me and spake unto me, saying, Behold, these that go toward the north country have quieted my spirit in the north country. That's another thought.
Yes,
another
but the
thought from the 4
reason
chariots.
why I've kept it together is
Okay.
because the group before it is talking about the north, the south, and to and fro across the earth, And verse 8 is still talking about the north, so I kept it there.
Okay.
We certainly can divide it at 8 if you wish. This
Well,
is
no,
very subjective, but I kept it together because it was dealing with the North Country that was introduced in that first section.
okay, but okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm just
I tell you.
explaining why I did it the way I did it.
No, no. Okay.
Okay.
That's
All
good.
right. The next section here is the word of the Lord came unto me and said, make crowns and set them upon the head of Joshua. Okay. So here we have the high priest, and Joshua is being ordained as the high priest here. Does this say Joshua wears 2 crowns? It does. One of the crowns represents the crown of a king. The other one represents the crown of a priest. And we'll talk about that, and we'll look at some pictures of them. Then we go to the next section. Behold the man whose name is the branch. Clearly a new thought. And he's going to build the temple of the Lord. And I'm just going to say this right up front and have you be thinking about it. I think this is a prophecy of the coming of the church. I think the temple of the Lord that the branch is going to build is the future church. But we'll look at that. He shall bear the glory and sit and rule upon his throne. He shall be a priest upon his throne. Who normally sits on a throne? A king, not a priest. But here we have a priest sitting on the throne. We don't have separation of church and state. We have unity of church and state. So this is the branch, is both priest and king. There's only been a couple people in the Bible who have had that role. Joshua's one, Melchizedek is another, and the third one is the branch. So that's the divisions at which we will attack this chapter. Okay? Any questions? So Herb, let me ask you, if you went back and put your line at verse 8, would you include 8 and 9 together, or are you going to break out 8 as a separate thing all of by itself?
No, I think a new thought begins in 9. I think 8 is a completely thought from above, in that it talks specifically about the north, not about the 4 horses being delivered to go into the different places, but it talks about something that's happened, because it says it has quieted my spirit in the north.
Right.
Something's going on right there in that
Right.
one sentence. That's what got me.
Okay, good. And that's a good pickup. And I think you could break 8 out as a separate and call that the second one, and verse 9 starts the third one. I think that's fine.
Call it 1B.
Okay. All right, that's even better. I like that. That's a good solution. All right, anyone else with any other questions or comments here? All right, so this is a good natural place for us to stop. Oh, go ahead. Someone had a comment?
I was going to say, if you go back to your last slide and you look the joining of priest and king, and I read this morning that Trump had put out an order or a memo to federal governments that now anyone should be permitted to speak about their faith and display religious items and have a conversation with other people within the federal government on their faith and why they feel that their faith should be considered as opposed to someone else, as long as it's not adversarial or controversy, which is completely different, because you always had to have complete separation of any religion and the state. And now this executive order came out this morning, I read about it, that you are now permitted to speak about your faith at federal workplace.
Okay, good.
And
All right, anyone else?
And what she's saying is basically what we covered about how people lie about God's word, since you can worship God in any way. And that was the only issue that Jefferson was making when he wrote to the Baptists, to say that we're not going to prevent you from doing anything that's in worshiping God that you haven't done before, so that Virginia, for those states to ratify, or colonies to ratify the Declaration of Independence and then the Constitution, so that they incorporate the Bill of Rights, so that we can move forward in forming the governance of the country. So yeah, this is all deceptions and then interpretations by people whose whole goal was to destroy from within the fabric of the government that was created by the founding fathers of this country.
Okay, thank you, Frederick. Anyone else? Any other comments?
Great lesson. Very
Okay.
confusing
Thank you. I'm sorry, very confusing?
so far.
Okay.
I got a million thoughts going on right now. What it all
That's where you should be. Okay. When you first sit down to play the piano, before you can play Rachmaninoff, we've got to go dink, dink, dink. So we're dinking right now. But that's okay.
Chopsticks come first.
All right, Dave Bodie, would you close us in prayer, please?
Absolutely. Lord Father, thank you for this morning and the opportunity again, and to just study your word along with all the people joining. John, thank you again for John and the diligence and the Holy Spirit leading him, and the Holy Spirit leading us as well. Lord, thank you for I think the executive order that went out this morning. We're continuing to see the United States move a little bit back towards Christ and church, and that's so much going on there that that's just I was pleased that that's happening. Lord, I ask you to look over each one of us, and you take the words that we understood today, and that we actually take these words, we use them to communicate to people, and we also use them, Lord, to do your will on the earth while we're here. Let them go to our heart, and let us take action, not just hear them and forget about them and come back next week. Let us take these words and take actions to the people around us. I pray these things in the name of Christ Jesus. Amen.